The hallway was dim, the air heavy with silence, and a soft knock echoed against the door that separated the world from the soul of a boy who had already lived too many lives. Inside, a small figure sat on the edge of a bed, knees pulled to his chest, eyes filled with fear and exhaustion. In that moment, Michael Jackson was not a star, not a legend, not even a performer. He was a child searching for one thing only: safety. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss another untold story. This is not just the story of Michael Jackson's fame. This is the story of survival, of a boy who grew up in the spotlight but lived in the shadows of expectation, of a man who conquered the world, yet struggled to find peace within himself. And at the center of it all was one woman, his mother, Katherine Jackson, the only place he ever truly felt safe. To understand why Michael Jackson's mother became his only refuge, we must return to where it all began: Gary, Indiana. A small, industrial town where the hum of factories filled the air and dreams felt too fragile to survive. The Jackson family lived in a modest home where music was not just a passion, but a mission. From the earliest days, talent was cultivated with discipline, repetition, and unwavering expectation. Michael Jackson was born into this world of sound and pressure. From the moment he could speak, he could sing. From the moment he could stand, he could dance. His gift was undeniable, but so was the weight that came with it. His father, Joseph Jackson, believed greatness required sacrifice, and he enforced that belief with strict discipline that often crossed into fear. In that household, safety was not found in silence. It was not found in perfection. It was not found in applause. It was found in one place only: in the arms of his mother. Katherine Jackson was the emotional heart of the family. Where others demanded results, she offered reassurance. Where fear ruled, she brought calm. Where voices rose, hers softened. She did not see Michael Jackson as a prodigy first, she saw him as a child. She noticed the way his hands trembled before performances. She noticed the way his eyes darted around the room when voices became loud. She noticed how he shrank under criticism, how he absorbed pain without knowing how to release it. And when the world demanded more from him, she gave him something it never could: unconditional love. Michael Jackson once said that when he was scared, he ran to his mother. Not because she could stop the world, but because she could stop the fear inside him. As the Jackson 5 rose to fame, Michael Jackson's life transformed overnight. Tour replaced school days. Studios replaced playgrounds. Interviews replaced bedtime stories. The world saw a smiling boy in a sequin jacket. His mother saw a child who barely slept, who cried quietly, who carried pressure far beyond his years. Every night, Katherine would sit with Michael. She would pray with him. She would speak softly to him. She would remind him that he was not loved for his voice, not valued for his success, not accepted for his perfection, but cherished simply because he was her son. In a world that treated Michael Jackson as a product, Katherine treated him as a person. That distinction would save his life. As Michael Jackson grew older, his fame expanded into something the world had never seen. His albums shattered records. His concerts drew crowds in the hundreds of thousands. His face became one of the most recognizable on earth. He was not just famous, he was global, cultural, and mythic. But with that fame came isolation. Michael Jackson did not experience fame as admiration, he experienced it as distance. He could not walk down the street unnoticed. He could not form relationships without suspicion. He could not trust easily, because trust had been broken too many times. The more people loved his image, the more alone he felt inside. And when the world felt unsafe, he turned to the only place that had ever felt safe: his mother. He called her late at night, he asked for her advice. He confided his fears. He cried to her about loneliness, about betrayal, about not knowing who he truly was anymore. Katherine Jackson listened. She did not judge. She did not rush. She did not dismiss his pain. She simply held space for his soul. Michael Jackson once described his mother as his anchor. He said she was the one who kept him grounded when everything else was spinning. In a life filled with chaos, Katherine Jackson was the calm. In a world that demanded perfection, she offered acceptance. In a career built on illusion, she represented truth. As his appearance changed, the world speculated. As his health declined, the world mocked. As his behavior became more eccentric, the world judged. But Katherine Jackson saw none of that. She saw a son who was hurting, a son who was confused, a son who was searching for peace. When Michael Jackson was diagnosed with vitiligo and lupus, his physical and emotional pain intensified. The changes to his skin became a source of relentless media scrutiny and cruel public commentary. Every transformation was dissected, every difference was mocked, every struggle became entertainment. Michael Jackson felt exposed, not just physically but emotionally. And once again, he turned to his mother. Katherine Jackson reassured him that his worth was not tied to his appearance. She reminded him that beauty was not something the world defined. It was something the soul carried. She reminded him that he was loved not for how he looked, but for who he was. Those words became a shield. Because when the world looked at Michael Jackson and saw controversy, Katherine looked at him and saw a child who needed protection. In the 1990s, when allegations emerged that threatened to destroy Michael Jackson's reputation, career, and spirit, the world turned cold. Overnight, he became not just a superstar but a symbol of scandal. His name dominated headlines. His face filled news screens. His character was debated by strangers. For Michael Jackson, this was not just a public crisis. It was a psychological collapse. He felt hunted. He felt misunderstood. He felt betrayed. He felt abandoned. And he felt unsafe, not in his home, not in his mind, not in the world. But there was still one place where he felt safe. His mother. Katherine Jackson stood by him when others distanced themselves. She believed in his innocence. She visited him when he was hospitalized. She prayed with him when he could not pray alone. She defended him publicly and privately. She reminded him that truth did not disappear just because the world refused to see it. During this period, Michael Jackson later admitted that he contemplated ending his life. He was exhausted. He was broken. He was drowning. And it was his mother who pulled him back. She spoke to him not as a celebrity, not as a public figure, not as a defendant, but as a mother speaking to her child. She told him his life mattered. She told him his pain was real. She told him his existence was not defined by headlines. She told him that the world still needed his voice, his heart, his message. She told him he was not alone. And in that moment, Michael Jackson realized something profound. He had lost trust in the world. He had lost trust in people. He had lost trust in fame. But he had never lost trust in his mother. Because she had never failed him. As years passed, the pressure on Michael Jackson did not lessen. Another trial, another storm, another cycle of scrutiny and pain. His health deteriorated, his isolation deepened, his trust eroded further. But Katherine Jackson remained constant. She visited him. She prayed with him. She advised him. She protected him. She reminded him who he was. When Michael Jackson left the United States after his trial, seeking peace abroad, he remained emotionally tethered to his mother. No matter where he traveled, no matter how far he went, he carried her voice with him. He called her. He wrote to her. He sought her guidance. Because distance could not break the only bond that had ever made him feel safe. Michael Jackson's home at Neverland Ranch became a reflection of his inner world, whimsical, imaginative, childlike, and misunderstood. Many saw it as eccentric. Some saw it as disturbing. But Katherine Jackson saw it for what it truly was. A sanctuary built by a man who never had one. She understood that Neverland was not about fantasy. It was about safety. It was about creating a world where he could finally be a child. A world where he could laugh without fear. A world where he could love without suspicion. A world where he could exist without judgment. And Katherine Jackson respected that. She did not mock it. She did not dismiss it. She understood it. Because she had always understood him. As Michael Jackson prepared for his final comeback tour, This Is It, his body and spirit were under immense strain. Rehearsals were intense. Expectations were astronomical. The world was watching. The pressure was crushing. Katherine Jackson sensed something was wrong. She expressed concern about his health. She worried about his exhaustion. She feared he was being pushed beyond his limits. She urged him to rest. She urged him to slow down. She urged him to protect himself, because she knew something the world did not. She knew Michael Jackson was not just tired, he was fragile. On June 25, 2009, the world lost Michael Jackson. But Katherine Jackson lost her son. The grief that followed was not public. It was private. It was quiet. It was deep. She did not scream. She did not collapse. She mourned in silence. And in that silence, she felt the weight of everything they had endured together. The fear, the pressure, the pain, the survival. Yet even in her grief, Katherine Jackson continued to protect Michael. She did not allow the world to reduce him to controversy. She did not allow the media to rewrite his story without resistance. She did not allow his children to grow up in chaos. Instead, she became their guardian. Once again, Katherine Jackson became a safe place. Not just for Michael, but for his legacy. She took responsibility for his children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, not as a duty, but as an extension of her love for her son. She raised them with structure, stability, and compassion. She shielded them from the media. She gave them a childhood Michael never had. In doing so, she continued what she had always done. She created safety. And through that safety, Michael Jackson lived on. Not in headlines. Not in rumors. Not in controversies. But in values. In love. In faith. In compassion. In healing. Michael Jackson's children have spoken openly about their grandmother's influence. They describe her as gentle, patient, and unwavering. They credit her with giving them a sense of normalcy, despite their extraordinary circumstances. They speak of her not just as a guardian, but as a source of emotional grounding. In their voices, Michael Jackson's voice lives on. In their kindness, his kindness lives on. In their resilience, his resilience lives on. And at the center of it all is Katherine Jackson, the woman who created the only safe place Michael Jackson ever knew. But the story goes deeper. Michael Jackson's relationship with safety was not just emotional, it was existential. He did not feel safe in the world. He did not feel safe in fame. He did not feel safe in public perception. He did not feel safe in judgment. He did not feel safe in scrutiny. He felt safe only in love. And the only unconditional love he ever fully trusted was his mother. Because her love did not demand perfection. It did not require performance. It did not come with conditions. It did not change based on success. It did not disappear during failure. It did not waver during controversy. It remained. And that constancy became his refuge. Michael Jackson once said that he felt the most peace when he was with his mother, not because she solved his problems, but because she made him feel seen. Seen as a human being. Seen as a soul. Seen as a son. In a world that saw him as a product, a brand, a headline, a controversy, a myth, Katherine Jackson saw him as a child. That difference saved him. It saved him from losing himself completely. It saved him from bitterness. It saved him from hatred. It saved him from despair. And perhaps it saved him from something even darker. Because when Michael Jackson stood on the edge of emotional collapse, when he questioned his existence, when he felt his life had lost meaning, it was not fame that pulled him back. It was not money. It was not success. It was not applause. It was his mother's voice. Her voice saying, "You matter." Her voice saying, "You are loved." Her voice saying, "You are not alone." Her voice saying, "You are safe." Those words became his lifeline. And in a life filled with chaos, that lifeline was everything. This is why Michael Jackson's mother was his only safe place. Not because she was perfect. Not because she had all the answers. Not because she could stop the world. But because she never stopped loving him. She never stopped believing in him. She never stopped protecting him. She never stopped praying for him. She never stopped holding space for his pain. She never stopped being his refuge. And that refuge was not a house. Not a place. Not a country. Not a career. It was a heart. A heart that refused to let him fall. a heart that refused to let him break, a heart that refused to let him disappear. Michael Jackson's life was filled with light and shadow, brilliance and pain, fame and loneliness, love and loss. But through it all, one thing remained constant: his mother. And in that constancy, he found safety. In that safety, he found survival. In that survival, he found purpose. And in that purpose, he left behind a legacy that continues to inspire millions. When we listen to Michael Jackson's music, we are not just hearing melodies. We are hearing survival. We are hearing healing. We are hearing hope. We are hearing a soul that refused to give up, because someone refused to give up on him. And that someone was his mother. So when the world asks, how did Michael Jackson survive what he endured? The answer is not found in fame, not found in fortune, not found in talent. It is found in love. A love that was unwavering. A love that was unconditional. A love that was patient. A love that was gentle. A love that was fierce. A love that was safe. And that love had a name. Katherine Jackson. Michael Jackson's mother was not just his parent. She was his protector, his anchor, his refuge, his safe place. And in a world that never felt safe, that made all the difference. Because no matter how loud the world became, her voice was louder. No matter how cruel the world became, her heart was kinder. No matter how dark the world became, her love was brighter. And no matter how broken he felt, her presence made him whole. This is not just a story about a superstar. It is a story about motherhood, about love, about survival, about safety, about what it means to be human. Michael Jackson's story reminds us that even the most famous people are still vulnerable, that even the most talented souls still need protection, that even the brightest stars still need a place to rest, and that sometimes the greatest gift in the world is not success, but safety. Michael Jackson found that safety in his mother, and because of that he survived. He loved, he healed, he gave, he inspired, he changed the world. Not because he was the king of pop, but because he was a son who was loved. And that love saved him. This is why Michael Jackson's mother was his only safe place. And this is why her love will always be a part of his legacy. Not written in headlines, not carved into statues, not measured in records, but carried in hearts, carried in music, carried in memory, carried in truth, carried in love. And yet, even after everything we've uncovered, the story of Michael Jackson and his mother still reaches deeper than memory, deeper than history, deeper than the surface of fame itself. Because safety, for Michael Jackson, was not just something he needed in moments of crisis. It was something he had been searching for his entire life. Long before the world knew his name, long before stages and stadiums and screaming fans, Michael Jackson was a child who learned very early that love could feel conditional, that affection could be tied to performance, that approval could disappear with one mistake. In that environment, fear becomes a language and silence becomes survival. But Katherine Jackson spoke a different language. She spoke in prayer. She spoke in softness. She spoke in patience. She spoke in presence. And through that language, she built something Michael Jackson had never known before: emotional safety. Emotional safety is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It does not shine like a spotlight or echo like applause. It simply exists quietly, steadily, unshakably. That was Katherine Jackson. When Michael Jackson was overwhelmed by rehearsals, she did not tell him to be stronger. She told him it was okay to be tired. When he was frightened by criticism, she did not tell him to ignore it. She told him his worth did not depend on it. When he was confused about his identity, she did not tell him to choose. She told him he was allowed to be himself. And in those moments, something extraordinary happened. He felt safe. Not safe from the world. Not safe from pain. But safe in his heart. And for a soul as sensitive as Michael Jackson's, that safety was not a luxury, it was a necessity. Because Michael Jackson felt everything. He felt joy deeply. He felt sorrow deeply. He felt love deeply. He felt rejection deeply. He felt beauty deeply. He felt cruelty deeply. His sensitivity was not weakness, it was his gift. It was the source of his artistry, his compassion, his humanity, but it was also the source of his vulnerability. And in a world that often punishes vulnerability, safety becomes survival. Michael Jackson survived because his mother created a space where vulnerability was not punished, it was protected. That protection shaped him. It shaped the way he loved. It shaped the way he created. It shaped the way he gave. It shaped the way he forgave. It shaped the way he endured. And it shaped the way he saw the world. Michael Jackson did not see the world as a battlefield. He saw it as a wounded place in need of healing. He did not see people as enemies. He saw them as broken souls in need of compassion. He did not see pain as something to inflict. He saw it as something to relieve. And that perspective did not come from fame. It did not come from success. It did not come from talent. It came from safety. Safety gave him the freedom to feel. Safety gave him the freedom to care. Safety gave him the freedom to dream. Safety gave him the freedom to hope. Safety gave him the freedom to love. And the source of that safety was his mother. As Michael Jackson grew older, his world grew louder. The applause grew louder. The criticism grew louder. The expectations grew louder. The rumors grew louder. The judgments grew louder. The demands grew louder. But Katherine Jackson's voice remained steady. It did not try to compete with the noise. It did not try to overpower it. It simply existed beneath it, calm, constant, unwavering. And in that calm, Michael Jackson could breathe. When he walked into a room full of executives, lawyers, managers, producers, and publicists, he felt tension. When he walked into a room with his mother, he felt peace. Because peace is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of safety. Michael Jackson's life was filled with rooms that were full of people, full of cameras, full of expectations, yet empty of safety. And then there was one room that was often quiet, often simple, often ordinary, but filled with safety. That room was wherever his mother was. Sometimes it was a kitchen. Sometimes it was a bedroom. Sometimes it was a hospital room. Sometimes it was a phone call in the middle of the night. Sometimes it was a letter. Sometimes it was a prayer. Sometimes it was silence. But wherever Katherine Jackson was, Michael Jackson felt safe. Because safety is not a place, it is a presence. And her presence was his refuge. Michael Jackson once said that when he was with his mother, he could finally relax. He did not have to perform. He did not have to impress. He did not have to pretend. He did not have to hide. He did not have to be perfect. He could just be. And for someone who had been performing since before he could fully speak, the ability to simply exist without expectation was revolutionary. It was healing. It was restorative. It was liberating. It was life-saving. This is why Michael Jackson's mother was his only safe place. Not because she was the only person who loved him. Not because she was the only person who cared. But because she was the only person who made him feel safe to be himself, fully, completely, without fear. And that safety allowed him to survive a life that might have destroyed anyone else. Think about the pressures Michael Jackson faced. He was a child star before he was a teenager. He was a global icon before he was an adult. He was scrutinized before he was understood. He was judged before he was heard. He was criticized before he was known. He was analyzed before he was loved. And in that environment, many people lose themselves. Some become bitter. Some become hardened. Some become cruel. Some become numb. Some become lost. But Michael Jackson did not lose his heart. He did not lose his compassion. He did not lose his innocence. He did not lose his desire to heal. He did not lose his belief in goodness. And that is not an accident. That is the result of safety. Because when a person feels safe, they do not need to become cruel to survive. They do not need to become cold to protect themselves. They do not need to become hardened to endure pain. They can remain soft, even in a hard world. And Michael Jackson remained soft. Not weak, not fragile, but soft, open, sensitive, compassionate. And that softness was his greatest strength. It allowed him to write songs that made people cry. It allowed him to create music that healed. It allowed him to connect with people across cultures, languages, and borders. It allowed him to see humanity as one family. It allowed him to believe in peace when the world believed in conflict. It allowed him to give when others took. It allowed him to forgive when others hated. It allowed him to love when others judged. And that softness came from safety. Safety came from his mother. So when the world saw Michael Jackson as strange, eccentric, or misunderstood, Katherine Jackson saw him as wounded, sensitive, and in need of protection. She did not try to change him. She did not try to mold him. She did not try to fix him. She accepted him. She loved him. She protected him. And in doing so, she allowed him to become who he truly was, not the image the world created, but the soul he carried. Michael Jackson once said that his mother was the one person he trusted completely. Trust is not given lightly. Trust is built over time. Trust is built through consistency. Trust is built through reliability. Trust is built through presence. Trust is built through safety. And Katherine Jackson built that trust every day of his life. She was there when he succeeded. She was there when he failed. She was there when he celebrated. She was there when he grieved. She was there when he was praised. She was there when he was attacked. She was there when he was confident. She was there when he was broken. She was there when he was joyful. She was there when he was afraid. She was there when he was strong. She was there when he was weak. She was there when he was silent. She was there when he cried. She was there when he prayed. She was there when he doubted. She was there when he believed. She was there. And because she was there, he felt safe. This is why, when Michael Jackson faced the darkest moments of his life, moments when his reputation was destroyed, his privacy was violated, his character was attacked, and his spirit was crushed, he did not turn to fame, money, or power. He turned to his mother. Because safety does not come from control. It comes from connection. And his deepest connection was with her. During the allegations and trials when the world was divided and his name was dragged through headlines, Michael Jackson felt hunted. He felt exposed. He felt stripped of dignity. He felt misunderstood. He felt betrayed. He felt alone. But he was not alone. Because Katherine Jackson stood beside him. She did not waver. She did not distance herself. She did not remain silent. She did not disappear. She stood. She spoke. She defended. She prayed. She believed. She loved. And in that love, Michael Jackson found the courage to keep going. Because courage does not come from confidence. It comes from safety. It comes from knowing that even if the world turns against you, someone still sees you, still loves you, still believes in you, still holds you. And that someone was his mother. Michael Jackson once said that he could survive anything as long as he had his mother's love. And he did. He survived fame. He survived criticism. He survived isolation. He survived betrayal. He survived illness. He survived heartbreak. He survived scandal. He survived despair. He survived loneliness. He survived pressure. He survived exhaustion. He survived fear. He survived because he had a safe place. And that safe place was not a building, not a country, not a career, not a fortune, not a title. It was a person. It was his mother. And even after his death, that safety did not disappear. Because Katherine Jackson continued to protect him. She protected his name. She protected his children. She protected his legacy. She protected his truth. She protected his humanity. She protected his memory. She protected his soul. She did not allow the world to reduce him to controversy. She did not allow the world to erase his compassion. She did not allow the world to forget his kindness. She did not allow the world to distort his intentions. She did not allow the world to rewrite his heart. She stood. She spoke. She reminded. She defended. She loved. And through that love, Michael Jackson remained safe even in memory. This is what it means to be a safe place. It does not end when the person is gone. It continues in how they are remembered, in how their story is told, in how their children are raised, in how their values are preserved, in how their humanity is honored. And Katherine Jackson honored Michael Jackson's humanity until the end. She did not try to turn him into a saint. She did not deny his struggles. She did not hide his pain. She acknowledged his humanity. And in doing so, she made his story more meaningful, not less. Because the story of Michael Jackson is not a story of perfection. It is a story of survival. It is a story of vulnerability. It is a story of endurance. It is a story of love. And at the center of that story is a mother who created safety in a world that offered none. Michael Jackson's life teaches us something profound. It teaches us that even the most successful people can feel unsafe. It teaches us that even the most admired people can feel alone. It teaches us that even the most talented people can feel broken. It teaches us that fame does not protect the soul. It teaches us that money does not heal the heart. It teaches us that power does not guarantee peace. It teaches us that applause does not replace love. And it teaches us that safety, real emotional safety, is one of the greatest gifts a human being can receive. Michael Jackson received that gift from his mother. And because he received it, he was able to give something extraordinary to the world, not just music, but compassion. Not just entertainment, but healing. Not just performances, but hope. Not just songs, but messages. Not just fame, but feeling. He sang about healing the world because he had been healed. He sang about loving one another because he had been loved. He sang about innocence because he had been protected. He sang about peace because he had found safety. And that safety came from one place: his mother. This is why Michael Jackson's mother was his only safe place. Because in a life filled with noise, she was silence. In a life filled with pressure, she was peace. In a life filled with judgment, she was acceptance. In a life filled with fear, she was comfort. In a life filled with chaos, she was calm. In a life filled with darkness, she was light. In a life filled with loneliness, she was presence. In a life filled with uncertainty, she was certainty. In a life filled with pain, she was love. And love, when it is safe, becomes salvation. Michael Jackson was saved not by fame, not by fortune, not by success, not by talent. He was saved by safety. And safety came from his mother. So when we look back at Michael Jackson's life, when we listen to his music, when we watch his performances, when we feel his impact, let us remember not just the icon, but the child. The child who needed protection. The child who needed comfort. The child who needed safety. And the mother who gave it to him. Because behind every legend is a human being. And behind every human being who survives is someone who made them feel safe. Michael Jackson survived because Katherine Jackson made him feel safe. And that safety changed the world. Because it allowed him to love the world. And that love lives on. In his music. In his children. In his legacy. In our hearts. And in the truth that no matter how famous, how powerful, how successful a person becomes, they still need one thing above all else: a safe place. Michael Jackson found that safe place in his mother. And because of that, he was able to give the world something timeless: love, hope, healing, humanity. And that is why this story matters. Not because it is about fame. Not because it is about controversy. Not because it is about success. But because it is about love. A love so strong, so steady, so safe, that it carried a soul through a world that never stopped trying to break it. And that soul was Michael Jackson. And that love was his mother. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or changed the way you see Michael Jackson, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, so more people can discover the human stories behind the legends we admire.